I've had a very unproductive day so far, but I was thinking about an interview I've got coming up on Friday where, because I still got the ZVE1, I want to use this as my B cam. And I was thinking what I might do is set this camera to 8-bit mode and see whether it still overheats in 25p. If I can do 4K 8-bit as my B cam, that's a compromise I'm willing to take, as long as I'm able to still get clean audio. If I don't have to run an external fan on here and it can just run 8-bit without a fan for like, I don't know, half an hour, 40 minutes, that's great. Obviously, I can do 10-bit with the external fan. It just ruins the audio. I'm going to do a test now just to see how long the ZVE1 actually records for in this mode. I mean, it's pretty cold in the house today, but I'm assuming it won't be much warmer in the room we're shooting in on Friday. So probably a fair enough test, at least for people shooting in the UK in the winter. All right, so as I said, these tests only really apply to my environment here in the UK, but I'm recording on the highest quality 8-bit setting, 8-bit 420, and I'm just going to see how the camera does. Obviously, just at 25p, that's all I need in 4K. Let's start recording. I've done this stupid video of me just like moving around in the frame. I've set the autofocus settings to the most reactive settings, so the camera should be working the whole time to keep me in focus. I know it's just a video on a laptop screen, but at least then it's a bit more realistic to what the camera would be doing. We've been recording for over an hour now, and I don't even have an overheating warning. I think you get like 5 more minutes of recording anyway when the overheating warning comes on. As I said, it's a pretty chilly room, so maybe not the best place to conduct a test, but for Friday's interview, that's great. I'm definitely not going to be recording for an hour. This could be the hack with the ZVE1. You just put it into 8-bit mode, and, you know, when it's just like B-cam shot, that's fine. And I was talking about the A6700 in one of my last videos, which I think would probably be a better idea. But then just thinking about like all of the effort to list this online, the whole just downgrading process, selling it, taking photos, shipping it, to save £400 or £500 when I'm essentially downgrading it to the APS-C equivalent. I don't know, man. And the A6700 still has overheating issues. I think it would be fine in 25p. And I'm going to see on Friday, if this works as a B cam and it can just run in 8-bit mode, then that's a compromise I'm willing to take. I just changed one setting. I still get nice 4K footage with a little bit less dynamic range and color fidelity. But when you're shooting interviews indoors, in most cases, you're lighting everything, you're setting it up exactly how you want it. And then when I need to run around and get that more like verite, B-roll, shots in uncontrollable environments, then I'll just put it back into 10-bit mode because I'm just recording short bursts. So in about a week's time, it will have been 2 years since I bought the ZVE1, which I'm recording this video on. And I've talked about this loads on this channel before. It's a fantastic camera, aimed at vloggers, but is actually as capable almost as the FX3. It has the same internals, same sensor, and it does even more in terms of AI processing and kind of like creator-led features. Its one downside, which I'm always banging on about, is that it doesn't have internal cooling. So for a talking head video like this, no problems. If you're doing professional client work and you want something reliable, this is not your camera. For this reason, I decided to buy an A7 IV a few months ago. This is now my workhorse camera, the camera I rig up, throw batteries on, and basically do my best work with. There are lots of reasons I chose the A7 IV, but I was willing to take some compromise in exchange for reliability and having something that I could throw on a tripod and record indefinitely for interviews and kind of like corporate gigs. Some of the things I like about the A7 IV is that it has a completely different sensor to the ZVE1 and FX3 and so on. So it has a different high base ISO of 3200, which I keep talking about is the most useful thing ever. I'm constantly wanting to shoot at the high base ISO, but the one on these cameras is 12,800, and yes, that is clean. The image you get out of these cameras is clean for the ISO being that high, but it's still noisy, and sometimes you just don't need that high of an ISO. So that's a great thing. It also has a really clean downsampled 4K image from 7K, which is through its 33 megapixel sensor, which also means it takes incredible stills. But the main thing for me is it has that hybrid build. So it has a load more buttons than the ZVE1. It's got this kind of like rugged feel. It's weather sealed. it has 2 SD card slots, and it has really good passive cooling. There are 2 things the A7 IV doesn't do well, which I was aware of when I bought the camera, but I didn't think I'd care about as much as I do. The first is slow motion. It does 4K 60 with a crop because it's like a downsampled 7K image. There's just not enough processing power to be able to do 4K 60 in full frame mode. And from the testing I've done with this camera in APS-C mode, the image is pretty noisy. So the 4K 60 on this camera is kind of reserved for emergencies if you really need it or a project really requires it. The other thing that it's terrible for is rolling shutter. The rolling shutter on this camera is terrible. So if you're someone who shoots cars, sports, moving subjects, this camera is pretty much ruled out for you. That's in video and photo mode. If you're moving the camera remotely quickly at all, you get this completely wobbly image. The same issue carries across to the FX2. As of the time of recording this video, it's been about 2 weeks since the A7V released. It'll be a little bit longer for you guys by the time you see this. But it got me thinking. The A7V fixed basically all of the issues with the A7 IV. It's got a new sensor, which is that same 33 megapixel resolution, but the processing power is so much faster. It has the same kind of processing speed as the ZVE1 or faster still. So it fixes the rolling shutter issues. It fixes the slow motion issue. You can do 4K 60 with that downsampled image with no crop, so full frame 4K 60. In fact, I'd recommend that camera to anyone who needs a camera that can basically do it all. It's a great hybrid. It has a really crispy 4K image and does great slow motion. So you think I'd be a little bit pissed off and grumpy that I hadn't waited for the A7V to come out. But here's the thing, and I quoted Gerald Undone in a recent video as well. He said all cameras are good now, and I kind of agree. If you're at this mid-range kind of level and you can't just splash out and buy an FX6 and FX3, you're constantly hunting for the best deals and the camera that can balance price with features. But it's a constant battle. Like, I spend so much time thinking about gear and not about the type of projects I want to work on, how I want to tell stories, and actually prepping for projects. I'm thinking about the equipment I want to shoot them on, which shouldn't be my kind of processing. Next year, if I instead take that energy and put it into actually making the projects I work on the best that they can possibly be, that's what's going to take me further, instead of thinking about, am I shooting on the right camera? To kind of bring all of that context together and summarize my thoughts, I bought the A7 IV when I still owned the ZVE1, which put me in an interesting position. These cameras are so different. This camera has terrible rolling shutter. I'm going to mostly have it on a tripod. I bought it with interviews in mind to be able to shoot for longer periods of time. This camera's a vlogger camera, a content creator camera. It's packed full of features, but is kind of unreliable. I'm aware I'm in a very privileged position to be able to do this, but I actually think I'll save more time, money, and energy by hanging on to the ZVE1, keeping it as a second camera, and running these 2 cameras alongside each other, because what one of them does terribly, the other one does really well, and that goes for both cameras. This does 4K 120p in full frame mode, which is incredible for the price point of this camera, but it doesn't do interviews. You can't do interviews reliably. When I was shooting professional projects with the ZVE1, it felt a little bit backwards that I was taking one of the lightest, most feature-packed full-frame cameras ever and adding a cage, a monitor, top handle, all of the accessories that I've got on the A7 IV, but it's not a camera that's designed to do that at all. So why not keep the ZVE1 as that perfect handheld run and gun B-roll camera? I can use it for behind the scenes, I can use it for social content like I am now, as it was intended. This camera is incredibly small and lightweight. You can basically sling it over your shoulder. So I've taken everything off of it and I'm gonna run it with the bare minimum: camera and lens. That means I can sling it over my shoulder and have it on standby as that 4K 120p camera. In those fast moving moments where the A7 IV would fail me, I can quickly grab the ZVE1 and run around and chase the action. I'd basically be free to get the same level of shots, but it's just a very different style of shooting. And it suddenly dawned on me, the features these cameras have are closely linked to the way in which they're meant to be used. So I can use the ZVE1 now to create great social media content, to just shoot in like S-Cinetone 8-bit mode and still get really nice looking footage, whereas this can be the cinema camera. This is the one that I rig up, I get a really nice clean image from. Admittedly, there are also kind of like social media shoots where it doesn't need to be the best looking thing in the world, and perhaps the ZVE1 would be better suited. If I'm not shooting interviews, this is still a fantastic camera, and for those bigger jobs where I need the best of both worlds, they both complement each other so well. So how does this fit into me saving time and money? Well, instead of chasing the next camera that can do it all, I can have two cameras that do two things very well. And you can see on a practical level as well, it's really helpful to have a camera that's ready to go, super easy to use, completely freeing. I can shoot whatever I want with it. And then a camera that's more suited to client work and shooting on a tripod and handcrafting those images until you get something that looks really professional and polished. I mean, this is not a new idea. Photographers are doing this the whole time. They have two camera bodies with two different lenses on, so it's a very similar idea. And in videography, this is also a thing, I guess, having a gimbal camera and a tripod camera. But if you're trying to make the best with what you have on this kind of budget level, I think this is the best decision that I can make at this stage in my career and will free up a load of headspace for me.